Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the IAC Global Networking Forum. I'm Ruth McAvinia from the European Space Agency's Web TV, and I'm excited to start this tour of Europe's contributions to the exploration of the Moon and Mars. Today, we'll see how ESA and the European space industry are finding innovative ways of reaching our exploration goals along with our international partners. In just a few minutes, we'll be starting our tour of Airbus, Thales Alenia Space, SSTL, and Leonardo. But first, it's my pleasure to welcome the ESA Director General, Jan Werner.
Hello, Ruth, and thank you very much for the introduction. Yes, it's a very important thing for us to discuss about exploration. Exploration for us is, of course, much more than just to send some people or some robots into space. Exploration is for us also an aspect where really cooperation can be justified and cooperation can make a totally difference. And because of this, I'm very delighted that I can introduce to all of you a person whom all of you will know already, Jim Bridenstine, the administrator of NASA. Jim, it's really a great pleasure to have you here today. And I would like to hear a little bit from you what you think about the cooperation and what about the future in exploration together.
Absolutely. So the partnership between NASA and the European Space Agency is really amazing. It's robust. It includes the study of the planet Earth, the study of the sun, the study of the planets, and of course, the study of deep space and astrophysics. So the partnership is amazing. I'll tell you, NASA is extremely grateful for all of the contributions from the European Space Agency on the International Space Station, and of course, all of the other capabilities we just discussed. But I would also say one of the greatest contributions that the European Space Agency provides is amazing astronauts that do so many great experiments and make discoveries using the microgravity of space. And we're thrilled that as we go to the moon now under the Artemis program, we're going to take not just the next man, but the first woman to the South Pole of the moon. That mission on day one is going to be international, and it will include the European Space Agency as not just a critical partner, but a critical enabler. So when we think about going next year, we're going to launch a human spacecraft around the moon for the first time since 1972. It's been a long time since we've sent a human spacecraft around the moon. In this case, it will be uncrewed, but that human spacecraft will be propelled by the European Service Module, which includes all of the life support capabilities and the propulsion capabilities for this capsule that's going to go around the moon. And then, of course, that's just the beginning. We're going to collaborate on building a gateway in orbit around the moon. Think of a small space station in orbit around the moon that will enable reusable human landing systems. And of course, when we go to the moon with the first woman in 2024, that too will be powered by the European Space Agency with the European Service Module. So this collaboration is critically important. It's historic. We've partnered together for a long time on a lot of capabilities. And I think now, because of our leadership, and I say our leadership, I mean NASA, the European Space Agency, the Japanese Space Agency, Canada, and Roscosmos. Because of what we have done on the International Space Station, we are poised to have the biggest, most collaborative, most inclusive, most diverse human exploration program in history with the Artemis program. And of course, the European Space Agency is a massive enabler of that capability. So Jan, it's great to be here with you today, and I look forward to hearing all the great things that Europe is doing.
Thank you very much, Jim. And in fact, the partnership with NASA was a propellant for us, not only for rockets or for the ESM, but especially also for our European exploration program, the Envelope program, which we got the subscription of our member states in Space 19 Plus, our ministerial conference, at the end of last year. And this is really giving us a total new possibility, and we will talk about that later on. But this gives us new possibilities to really go to low Earth orbit, Moon and Mars and do it together. Now, today, we would like to show you, Jim, but also the others, a little bit where all these European aspects and European hardware is built. And therefore, we will go to the different locations. And the first thing is we will go to Stevenage in the United Kingdom, and we will see there a space strategist and an engineer from Airbus, and they will tell us a little bit how they are working and what they are doing in order to make all these dreams reality.
Liz and Abby at Airbus, please tell us more.
We are delighted to welcome you here to the Mars Yard in Stevenage. But first of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our low Earth orbit activities and our moon plans. So the ISS has been a remarkable international engineering project, and Airbus has developed the ATV supply vehicle and also the Columbus laboratory. And in fact, since its launch in 2008, we've had an engineering team supporting operations on the Columbus lab so that the astronauts can work in safety and deliver their microgravity research, which is, as we know, has been invaluable. The fact that we support astronauts on board the space station and are developing key technologies for the future gives me a real sense of achievement. I, in fact, wasn't born when humans last set foot on the moon, so I am so excited to be part of the effort to put the first woman on the surface. The Orion program, as Administrator Bridenstine said, is a key part of that. And we at Airbus are delivering the European contribution through ESA for that, the European service module. And it will, as Administrator Bridenstine said, deliver the propulsion and the consumables and is on the critical path. And the project is a reality. If you watched the Orion session yesterday, and it's available for replay on the IAC app, you can hear our project manager talk all about it and see some of the latest pictures. The Service Module 1 has completed its final testing, and it's going to be handed from ESA to NASA at the end of this year. Service Module 2 is finishing its final integration, and we got the go-ahead this year for Service Module 3. The structure has been delivered to Bremen, and so we're now starting on that third version, and we're really excited. At Airbus, we believe in the importance of long-term lunar exploration. The moon is close enough for us to reach on a frequent basis, and it has resources that we can use for future exploration. And it's going to be a great stepping stone to the space economy in low Earth orbit. At Airbus, we have the technology to get vehicles and cargo to the surface and to move around. And so we are delighted that we've been selected for ESA's European Large Logistics Lander, also known as EL3, and the first study. EL3 is going to provide logistic support for astronauts, rovers, sample return missions, and much more. It will be able to take 1.7 tons to the surface of both scientific and logistic cargo. The flight should start in about 2020. They'll be able to access any part of the moon, and there will be about 3 to 5 missions over a 10-year timeframe. The first lunar bases will rely heavily on robotics and robotic support, including vehicles which can find their own way and make their own decisions. And we've developed exactly these autonomous technologies for ESA's ExoMars rover, which you'll hear from my colleague Abby in a bit. We're also developing Europe's first 3D metal printer for use on space on behalf of ESA. And the first metallic tools have already been printed on the ground. The next step is to take it to the ISS for testing, and this will be a key technology to support future lunar human missions. So we're aligning all the bricks for our lunar exploration, and together industry, ESA and NASA are going forward to the moon. And I'll hand over now to Abby, who will tell us about all things on the Red Planet.
Hello everyone, and I'm delighted to be with you today. So lunar exploration is about expansion and presence, but Mars is really the next frontier of discovery. So the world's already seen the benefit of collaboration and pooling resources for Mars missions. And the first mission to do such a thing, the Euro-Russian mission ExoMars, is due to launch in 2022. That's actually the mission that we here at Airbus built this Mars Yard facility that I'm standing in right now. And we've spent years developing the autonomous guidance and navigation technology that will enable that rover right here in Stevenage. We really have been privileged to be working on the ExoMars rover, and myself, I found it a huge privilege to be working on the mission so early in my career. I've spent the vast majority of my career to date working on ExoMars, and it's been fantastic to be part of such a huge international collaboration, really working on developing technology that will help to put hardware onto the surface of another planet. Next, we are so proud that ESA has chosen us for a leading role on the Mars Sample Return mission with the Earth Return Orbiter, which will be the first mission to actually bring back samples from the surface of Mars. NASA's Perseverance launch back in July of this year was the first step on that journey, but then NASA and ESA are actually pooling their resources and combining their capabilities for the middle stage, including the Sample Fetch rover, and I'm now on the team working to deliver that study phase for that mission right now. So Europe will oversee then the end return phase, which is powered by Airbus technology, bringing back that sample from the moon back here to Earth for further study and analysis. That's been a dream come true, working on a mission that allows us to build on the capabilities that we developed with ExoMars, but also allows us to really raise our ambitions to the next level and achieve another world first, bringing back samples from another planet here to Earth, and also as a preparation for future human missions to Mars. So I'm now allowed to ask you a question, and my question to you, first to Jan Werner, if that's okay, is that the Mars Sample Return mission, the Mars Sample Return mission is a very ambitious multi-mission program of exploration. How important is the partnership between ESA and NASA to you on this program?
Yeah, thank you very much, Abby, for that question. To understand how important it is, one has to look a little bit into the program. You said pooling resources. Pooling resources could be just by pooling money. That would be one possibility of working together, and it would be a good possibility. But the Mars Sample Return mission is much more than that, because you mentioned already that the rover of NASA is already on its way to the red planet, and it will look for samples. Then there will be hopefully a European rover fetching all of these samples, bringing it to the small launching place where another launcher of the US will bring it into the Mars orbit, and then a fourth spacecraft, European spacecraft, should bring it back to Earth. So one can see by that it's not only by pooling resources, it's by pooling capacities, capabilities, and therefore it's really the truth and the best idea to show that cooperation is an enabler, competition is a driver, yes, but cooperation, this is the core of the Mars Sample Return mission. Cooperation is an enabler, and by pooling the human resources as well as the financial resources, we can do much more than just one of us. But Jim, what is your opinion to that?
Well, thank you, Jan. And I just want to start by telling Liz and Abby what an amazing job they did presenting to the IAC some of the activities that they are working on day in and day out. But you're right. So right now, Perseverance is on its way to Mars. And for the first time in history, we are doing, with our international partners, what we call an astrobiology mission. We are looking for the signs of either past life or even current life on another world, that being Mars. And with our European friends, in the future, we're going to go retrieve samples that the Curiosity rover is going to cache and leave on the surface of Mars. I just want to emphasize, Jan, how exciting this is. The fact that in the last couple of years, our international partners, the European Space Agency, NASA, and others, we've come together and we've made some amazing discoveries. Number one, that Mars is covered in complex organic compounds. The building blocks for life exist all over Mars. We know now that the methane cycles of Mars match the seasons of Mars. And we have a strong belief that there's liquid water 12 kilometers under the surface of Mars. Those three discoveries increase significantly the possibility of finding life on another world. I don't know if it's there or not, neither does anybody else, but together, our collaboration could result in making such a discovery. And I know Abby and Liz, obviously you're very excited about these missions, and you should be. And we're grateful for the hard work that you're doing. And certainly we look forward to a day when we can know. Maybe there was, maybe there is even microbial life on another world. But it's going to require all of us working together to make such a discovery.
Thank you so much, Administrator Bridenstine. Thank you to Abby and to Liz at Airbus. DG, where are we headed next?
Yeah, thank you also from my side. But now let's go further and a little bit closer, meaning we are moving from UK to Italy, but at the same time moving from Mars a little bit more to the lunar environment. And therefore we go to Thales Alenia Space in Turin. And I'm really curious to hear about what is going on there.
Yes, welcome to Thales Alenia Space. Indeed, exploration is in our DNA, making this a wonderland for young professionals. From this very site in Torino for human spaceflight, we provided a huge percentage of the habitable volume of the International Space Station, our home away from home, and other iconic contributions such as the Cupola Observatory Module or the Cygnus pressurized cargo vessels. And for robotic exploration, we are prime contractors for ExoMars. That is an extremely challenging international mission that has already put a satellite in orbit around Mars, and will also bring there the European rover in a couple of years. So we take pride in accepting the unique challenges brought forward by the agencies and by private customers alike. We will be within this new wave of initiatives for the lunar and Mars exploration that will liven up the upcoming decades. Thales Alenia Space will be deeply involved in Mars sample return, where we have the leadership for the orbit insertion module, communication systems, and also assembly, integration, and testing activities up to full spacecraft integration. And then there is the whole amazing challenge of human spaceflight and Artemis. And there we are prime contractors for IAF, the International Habitat contributed by ESA in cooperation with JAXA to the NASA Gateway. And IAF is truly tomorrow's crewed system. It is designed to be at the same time extremely safe and comfortable for astronauts for long stays, but also able to survive and operate autonomously when not tended by the crew. And another cornerstone contribution where we have a leading role is ESPRI. ESPRI will provide communication services, refueling, and additional infrastructure to the Lunar Orbital Platform. So with IAF and ESPRI, the habitability and the potential for utilization of the gateway will be highly improved. And we are also part of other building blocks of the exploration architecture. And we do so by providing our pressurized elements to customers, such as Northrop Grumman with HALO, the initial habitation and logistics core of the gateway, or Dynetics with HLS, the human-rated lunar lander. And we also strongly support the intent of the Italian Space Agency to study lunar surface infrastructure. This is, you can think about habitats to provide shelter to astronauts in the initial human landings, or ancillary installations to contribute to the safety and sustainability of extended lunar sorties. There is a chance here for young professionals to really design and build the future by doing things such as in situ resource utilization or widespread robotization supported by artificial intelligence and wise use of data. Across all of this, what we believe and has been said already is that space exploration is really a pillar in nurturing and sustaining industrial excellence. And it does so, of course, by challenging and stimulating technological innovation, but also by pulling together the entire space ecosystem, from science and academia to small and medium enterprises to large system integrators to institutions. We believe that no one alone can master the huge effort required to sustain human presence in outer space. And we as a company, for sure, would not be able to succeed without our network of amazing partners and suppliers that complement our competencies and our capabilities. And this includes, I would say, the excellent Italian supply chain. So what we believe is that space is not just the final frontier. It is the future home and the future workplace for the next generation. And Thales Alenia Space wants to be there. Thales Alenia Space wants to contribute in making space the new normal and a territory for sustainable growth for everybody. This is a mission young professionals can easily identify with. Space is not far. Space benefits all of us on Earth. And this brings me to two questions. One for the NASA administrator. And I would say, we understand the benefits of the gateway, but can you tell us a little bit more about why specifically the gateway is so important in the global exploration roadmap and in Artemis? And for the ESA DG, I would ask, we have seen a lot of excitement around commercialization of low Earth orbit, but what about exploration? And is it ready for commercialization? How do you see European industries entering this new field? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Eleonora, and thank you for your great presentation. I'll tell you, I think the gateway is critically important for the future of human spaceflight for a number of reasons. First of all, we're going to think of it as a reusable command and service module in orbit around the moon for 15 years. And of course, it could last much longer than 15 years, but we're designing it to last for at least 15 years. And what that means is with the reusable or a permanent command and service module in orbit around the moon, we're going to be able to have human landing systems that can go back and forth to the surface of the moon over and over and over again. And those reusable modules to take astronauts down to the surface and be reusable, that's going to drive down costs. When we think back at the Apollo era, we think about every time we went to the moon, we threw the entire architecture away on every mission. Well, this time we need to be smarter about how we create a sustainable program. The key to all of this is making sure that the Artemis program doesn't end. We love the Apollo program, but it ended. And when we talk about Artemis, we're building a sustainable architecture. So a reusable command module, which is the gateway, that enables us to have reusable surface modules to go down to the surface of the moon and back. And those surface modules can be serviced, they can be refueled, and the gateway, because it has solar electric propulsion, enables us to get to every part of the moon. When we go back to the 1960s and early 1970s, we landed on the moon 6 times, and each moon landing was at the equatorial region. Now, because of the gateway, we're going to be able to go to any part of the moon anytime we need to get there. And I think that's a critical capability for humanity as we move forward and explore in new and unique ways. The other thing that's valuable about the gateway is that it's really a precursor to an eventual deep space transport capability to get to Mars. We're learning how to live and work on another world on the surface of the moon, but we're also learning how to travel in deep space for long periods of time. And that's what the gateway is going to help us do. So the gateway is about exploring the moon in ways that we've never been able to do before and making it sustainable and driving down costs and increasing access. But the gateway is also about having deep space transport capability to get to Mars. And I would also say there's a lot of capability from the gateway, whether it's astrophysics, the study of deep space, or heliophysics, the study of the sun. We're going to be able to do all kinds of science and experiments from the gateway that will be enabled because we have this platform in orbit around the moon. So, Eleonora, thank you for the question, and thank you for all that you're doing and Thales Alenia is doing as we move forward to the moon.
Eleonora, also from my side, thank you very much for your presentation. And your question is the space exploration, the European space exploration, ready for commercialization? This is a good question. And I cannot tell you really whether it is or not, but what we as the European Space Agency are doing, we are really trying to broaden and extend also the commercialization in space, because I believe really this is the future of space in many fields, not in all fields, but in many fields. And therefore, for the next ministerial conference, we are already preparing right now that we will go for much more commercialization than in the past. And that means also, for instance, for the moon, but also for low Earth orbit, that we believe that commercialization is really key for the development. If you look in the far future, it's very clear that many of the activities space agencies are doing right now can be commercialized. We have already a program, for instance, in telecommunication, which is at least partly commercialized. We have it already in Earth observation. We have it a little bit in the launcher sector in Europe. And we have it a little bit also in navigation. But the future will also show that exploration is also a field where companies can really do something as a commercial business. And this means also to have a shift of paradigm. And I am very, very clearly convinced that we should do that. And we will hear about that also in our next presentation, for instance, concerning lunar communication services.
Thanks very much, DG. Thank you, Eleonora. So go ahead, DG. Where are we headed next?
We're in the UK. We went to Italy. Now we go back to UK to SSTL, Surrey Satellite Technology Limited.
Nelly at SSTL, it's over to you.
Thank you, Ruth. So I'm talking to you today in front of the Satellite Operations Center at SSTL, where 3 years from now, we will be commissioning the very first lunar relay comms orbiter that's going to provide communication services as a commercial offer. So Lunar Pathfinder will offer communication services to orbiters and surface assets, relaying data from any lunar location back to Earth. This service is indispensable, of course, for far-side missions, which have no direct line of sight to Earth, but also a dramatic autonomy enabler for rovers and surface missions that may lose their surface relay, either from breaking line of sight by wandering over and getting stuck behind a rock, or having a longer mission duration than the relay that they have. But beyond this the exciting nature of the mission itself, what is very special about it is the role that institutions are taking to stimulate a market that frankly would not take off on private investment only. And that's by being the anchor customer for the services. ESA and NASA are enabling SSTL to raise the investment that are necessary to build the spacecraft and the service around it and bear the market risk, which would be undoable without their help because the market is so uncertain on the moon today. So my question is to both Mr. Werner and Mr. Bridenstine. We are working on developing commercial lunar services, and so is NASA. So how can we make a transatlantic commercial partnership work?
I think that's a great question, Nelly, and thank you for your awesome presentation as well. I think the big thing is, and this is really what we announced yesterday with the Artemis Accords, what we need is interoperability for all systems. And when I talk about interoperability, I'm talking about creating the standards for how we do data and communications and environmental control and life support and navigation and docking. All of the things that we need to do to work collaboratively in space, we need to make standards for those activities. And those standards need to be published and available to the entire world. And when we create those standards, then private companies like Surrey, which is interested in providing commercial communication capabilities from the moon, they will be able to utilize the same architectures, the same standards that all of the other players are utilizing, whether it be NASA or any of the other space agencies around the world. But it also enables commercial companies to plug in. So we want to make sure that this is the broadest coalition of international partners, but we also want to bring in commercial partners like Surrey to provide these capabilities. So I think that the basic premise behind all of it is to create those standard interfaces where we can all work together. And if those standards are provided and certain, then the private companies can make investments, private capital can come into the markets, and all of a sudden all of us can do more in space than any of us could do alone.
So Nelly, also from my side, thank you very much for your question, which is an interesting one. The question, can we have commercial partnerships? And I think yes. The next question you should say, what about the agencies? Can they go for that? Can they support that? And I believe yes. Why I'm thinking that? Very simple. We have in ESA, we have public-private partnerships since years. We have a big tradition in that and a big success. So for instance, in telecommunication, we use about 30 to 50% public money, and industry comes with 50 to 70% of commercial initiatives and private money. And this structure is not limited to Europe. So we could, and this is, I think it's a very good idea, that for instance, NASA and ESA sit together and say, okay, let's go for a public-private partnership of NASA and ESA, then with European and American companies. So far, NASA and ESA were doing this in partnerships, sometimes also in a very critical phase. I mean, if you look to ESM, Jim was talking about, the European service model, without the European service module, the SLS would not fly in the configuration as planned. So that means also the ESM has, from a technical point of view, had to do all the requirements from NASA. And if you look, for instance, to ISS, even there, we have the docking stations, the docking points where the different spacecraft could dock. And of course, you need some standards. So as Jim was saying, it's important to have these standards, and then through some public-private partnership, going for more commercialization. And then, of course, by that, I hope that also there will be partnerships directly between American and European companies without directly asking the agencies all the time about additional money. So maybe we are at that point then not an agency or a partner or a customer, but a broker, putting together and taking our knowledge about the industry in the US through NASA and the industry in Europe through ESA, and putting them together and playing the role of brokers for better commercialization and cooperation in space. I believe this is a great perspective. So thank you very much for your question, which brings us to better ideas. Now, with that, we can now go in another direction again. So I said we started with UK, we went to Italy, back to UK. Now we go back again to Italy, and I believe that in Milan, somebody is waiting to be announced at Leonardo. Maybe Ruth, you can call her.
Thanks, Gigi. Giada, please tell us more about Leonardo's work to help us to explore the moon.
Hi, everybody. It's really a pleasure for me to be part of this event. It's a dream coming true. Since I was a child, I was really ambitious and I was really curious about the space exploration. And so today I'm really proud to be part of this, leading the team for Prospect at MPCB PCDU. Especially Prospect, it's really an interesting program that if I have to think in a nutshell, we can say it's a smart European robotic system with arms, brain and eyes. The Prospect Earth, represented by Proceed, is able to drill up 1 meter in the lunar soil and to collect by the sampling tool, like an ant, 2 samples at the same time, the Russian sample and the European sample. The European sample is then analyzed through the chemical laboratory, PROSPA, made by Open University in UK, that acts as the brain for the system, and it's able to provide in real time information about the lunar soil constitution, especially about the possibility of the presence of water and consequently the oxygen on the moon. Prospect, it's really a challenging program. So, and even if we have really a great experience in space design, especially in robotic with ExoMars, Rosetta, robotic arms, the design of Prospect is challenging because the lunar light is really cold and extreme temperature, around minus 200 degrees. And especially the science point of view, we have the big constraint that we don't need to interact with the samples in order to not influence the presence or not of the water and consequently the oxygen. So I'm really excited to be part of this program because the knowledge that we will have with Prospect will open the door for the human exploration and of the moon and beyond. But the other important thing that I would like to underline for Prospect is that we have also the possibility with the imaging system to look in real time to the lunar soil, to the drill area. That it's really an exciting point for the scientific community and also for the common people like me. But it's clear that in Leonardo we are really ambitious, and the moon is just the starting point for us. We are also strongly involved in Mars exploration with the ExoMars drill that will land on Mars on the 2022, and especially we would like to bring our contribution with the robotic arms in Mars sample return. But we are also participating in active role in the European service module with the PCDU, the Power Control and Distribution Unit, and with the solar array. So the company is really on the cutting edge of the technology for the space. And due to this, I have an interesting question from NASA. Okay, so it's clear that Europe is spending a lot of resources for the study and for the knowledge of the space resources, also creating a dedicated research center. How do you see the importance of the space resource and especially the use of our Prospect drill for the searching these results?
That's a wonderful question, Giada, and I would say you're not a common person at all. You're doing amazing things, and we're grateful for your service. We need to learn how to use the resources of the moon to live and work on the moon for long periods of time for a purpose, so that we can go to Mars. Ultimately, what we do on the surface of on the surface of the moon, utilizing the resources of the moon, is really to learn how to live and work for long periods of time using the oxygen and the hydrogen and the H2O for life support and energy, and then prove the capabilities and systems necessary to take that knowledge to Mars, where we're going to have to be for, in some cases, years at a time. So thank you, Giada, and I look forward to all the great work that we do and that Leonardo does.
Thank you so much, Administrator Bridenstine, and thanks again, Giada. I'm sure you can continue to find out about all of the latest on our website, www.esa.int, and look forward to this future of exploration. Thank you very much to DG Jan Werner, to the NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine, and to all of our guests today. I wish you all good health and hope to see you next year in Dubai. Good night.